On Larry King Now, actress and humanitarian Ashley Judd on her fight against sex trafficking in the United States.
We need to punish the men and boys who buy illicit sex and decriminalize the victims.
On a possible run for office.
Governor seems like an interesting position too, particularly in Kentucky, where we have a mono economy, really abusive mineral extraction, pervasive poverty, low educational attainment. We're really low on all the different social indices.
Plus, Ashley's current relationship with her famous mother and sister.
My feeling about my big sister, and I enjoy this every single time, it's just like, it's like a lotus flower when it blooms. She just walks in the room and I go, I love my big sister.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our guest is the wonderfully talented Ashley Judd, Emmy, Golden Globe nominated actor, philanthropist, humanitarian, and University of Kentucky Wildcat, and possibly future politician. Ashley is known for her critically acclaimed performances in Ruby in Paradise, DeLovely, Norma Jean in Maryland. She's also a global ambassador for the Youth AIDS Initiative and has served as the keynote speaker of the United Nations thematic debate on human trafficking. Most recently, Ashley served as a contributor to PBS's docuseries, A Path Appears. It's a three-part investigation into gender oppression and human rights violation domestically and abroad. A Path Appears debuted on January 26th. The final two episodes are February 2nd and February 9th at 10 p.m. Central Time on PBS. Before we start anything else and cover everything else, what's with you and the Wildcats? Are you always a fanatic Kentucky fan?
Yes, I am. I absolutely am. And someone was asking me yesterday what I'm doing this year, and I said, well, I'm watching the men's basketball team at the University of Kentucky win their 9th national championship, and then we'll discuss the rest of the year.
Do you sit in the student section?
I love to stand in the student section. In fact, I don't think I can get tickets for the game against Alabama that's at Rupp Arena. And I said, no problem, I'll stand in the student section. It's where I belong anyway. I mean, my behavior is quite, but we're all us fans, we're pretty.
You go berserk?
Berserk is one word to describe it.
Are they going to go undefeated? It's hard to go undefeated.
It's very difficult to go.
Do you want to go undefeated?
Undefeated.
Sometimes.
Does a fat lady sweat at a dance? Of course I want to go undefeated. I want in my lifetime for us to, finally win more national championships than UCLA holds. I want it all, and I want it now.
Well said. Okay, you use your star power for a lot of good. Tell me about The Path Appears.
So A Path Appears is, as you put it, a docu-series that has an additional subtitle, which is Creating Opportunity, Transforming Lives. And it is about intense hardship, much of it societal and structural, but individuals who are able to transcend the untranscendable and live lives of great resilience and service. And so that's in a general way what it's about. And the segment in which I had the honor of working is specifically about sex slavery in Nashville, Tennessee.
Really?
And the reason that sex slavery in Nashville, Tennessee was chosen is because there is a grassroots program in Nashville called the Magdalene House, which is a successful holistic intervention which brings girls and women off the streets and over a period of 2 years helps them heal in every necessary human way. They learn financial literacy. They learn job skills. They become employable even if they are convicted felons, and I hope that's something we'll talk about. We need to punish the men and boys who buy illicit sex and decriminalize the victims. They get their dental care. They have prostitution debriefing group and a tremendous amount of grief and trauma work, which is essential for the victim to take that journey from dependent victim who is impaired in multiple ways to an empowered survivor who can advocate her own best interests and change her family and her community.
Does it focus on heroines?
Does it focus on heroines?
Yeah, I mean, these are women who have
Absolutely.
forged the path.
Absolutely. I so wish that my friend Shauna Goodwin were on the show with me, and maybe she can be your guest sometime. You know, Shauna and I have a lot in common. Because the primary risk factor for vulnerability to sex trafficking is being female. How sad is that? And then the second risk factor is being young. And then we go into household family vulnerabilities, addiction in a parent, some form of child abuse, particularly incest and sexual abuse, any contact with child welfare. Those kids are disproportionately represented in human trafficking. And, I had some of those, Shauna had some of those. I ended up at the University of Kentucky and then probably Harvard, and she ended up on the streets with a pimp who owned her. And she is absolutely a heroine. And she speaks so powerfully and beautifully about how she was set up and then how she played in the game, the mental imprisonment, which is subtle, but it is absolutely coercion and force. And then how she broke free and is now this businesswoman who helps other women in forced prostitution find a way out.
Let's watch a clip from A Path Appears.
So, what are you doing? You got a girl out here? 3? 3 girls. So you waiting on one to come back now?
Yeah,
How much do you expect her to bring?
40, no less. That's a new rule, 40.
So if she comes back with more than 40, do you expect that she'd be upfront with you and give you the full whack, or is she only going to give you 40 because you told her that was the minimum?
No, she give me 40 because I'm taking care of her. I got her a room and place safe to stay and drugs. So, I got
The one you're waiting on now, what's her habit?
crack. Everybody will be crack. Everybody.
So you supply her dope?
I want to point out that he also is an alcoholic. And so when we were driving around, and Shauna, she was like, the last time I saw him, he was just going in for fencing cars. So he's fairly new out of the penitentiary. And I said, how did you get back into the life? He wants out too, just as bad as the girls and women do. And he said, I was staying away from the neighborhood and I came back. And there's a little expression in recovery. If you keep going to the barber, you're gonna get a haircut. He went back to the old crowd, he got drunk, and the next thing he was in his own addiction and trafficking girls and women again.
The government doing enough?
The government passed a very good piece of game-changing legislation last year. It's called the Preventing Sex Trafficking and Strengthening Families Act, and it is being implemented in 2015, and it can move the needle because it helps move victim services out of the legal system into Health and Human Services Department.
A Path Appears will again, the first has appeared, the next will appear on the 2nd and the 9th. Ashley on a potential future in politics, her assessment of Obama, lots more. Don't click away. The first episode has already appeared, but the next 2 will be February 2nd and 9th of A Path Appears. Our guest is Ashley Judd. You endorsed President Obama twice,
Yes.
right? How do you think he's done?
I like the president. I think he's very smart. I am Democrat through and through, and it's a very difficult climate, and I don't say that as an excuse. I think a Republican president would have a hard time getting anything done, and that's kind of what I know and feel about it right now. And of course, he's still so charismatic. I was, like many people, looking for that transformational politics, and we got a little more into the transactional and all of that, and it's a tough time.
Sarah Palin recently went head-to-head with PETA. You've battled with her in the past, right?
I've forgotten all about that. There was something. Oh, wolves. Are we talking maybe about wolves?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not a fan of gunning down wolves with semi-automatic weapons from helicopters.
No, that seems they don't have a fair shot.
Exactly.
You spoke. Everyone thought you were going to run.
I did too.
For the Senate. What happened? Why didn't you run?
It became clear to me that it was, at that particular moment in my life, too much, too soon. Of course, I wanted people to think I was sincere, and I had a natural fear that maybe folks would think I had been dabbling, and I wasn't. I mean, I was all in. I was very excited. I had some bizarre thoughts like, it's a great day to raise $20 million. Not that I don't think we need massive.
You were running strong. I mean, when people just mention your name in polls, you
Yes.
were ahead.
Well, you know, it's for God to know and me to find out. It might come back around, and I might continue to do the advocacy work in the space where I am right now.
Your
And
mother,
I hope lots and lots and lots of girls and women run.
your wonderful mother, Naomi, mentioned that part of your decision not to run stemmed from, I want to get this right, from distress about the political climate in Washington, that you thought Washington insiders are sociopathic.
That's what my mother thinks.
Yes.
I was ready to go. I mean, I'm very clear about, I mean, obviously no one is until you're actually there and you have the complete immersion experience, but I think I had a pretty honest and fair assessment of what it's like in Washington, and it's none of my business what other people think of me, which is probably the single most important thing to put in one's pocket when one goes to Capitol Hill. So that's her assessment. That was not mine.
But you'd have been a dynamic senator.
That's very
Yeah,
kind.
you would have.
Thank you.
Is that the only office you were interested in?
Governor seems like an interesting position, too, particularly in Kentucky, where we have a mono economy, really abusive mineral extraction, pervasive poverty, low educational attainment. We're really low on all the different social indices. And because of my work in developing economies, I actually, both as a Kentuckian and someone who's traveled around the world a lot, have a deep bench on that stuff. And so that seemed like a possibility, but I also want to emphasize that I know that right now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Kentucky's where Obamacare is really working, right?
You know, it's working better in places. You know, we have a publicity problem sometimes, too, I think, with the president's policies.
Because it's generally working.
Yes. And Governor Beshear is a wonderful governor. I mean, you know, when he ran for governor, he came forward and he said, I'm pro-choice, deal with it. He was unapologetic about that. And he was very electable. And so I don't think that we are as intractable and polarized in Kentucky as we can be represented as being.
Looking ahead, is there a presidential candidate you kind of favor for 2016?
I'm not paying attention yet. It is way too soon to be paying attention. I mean, obviously, I love Hillary Rodham Clinton. I had the opportunity, as I typically do, to attend the Clinton Global Initiative annual meeting.
It's amazing.
It's heady space, man. That is so fun. I mean, in the hallways, the joy I feel just, you know, running into the great Ruchira Gupta, who's India's leading abolitionist, or running into Mikhail Vestergaard, who invented the long-lasting insecticide-impregnated mosquito net. I mean, they're just like falling over the coffee. It's brilliant. And so seeing her talk about early childhood vulnerability and brain development, man, that woman is stout. She is stout. So yes, I will be all in when the time comes.
You would obviously endorse her.
Of course I would.
Look at your enthusiasm. I mean, come on.
And are there other qualified candidates? Absolutely. I think she might be the most overqualified candidate we've had since, you know, Thomas Jefferson or George Washington. But it's not time yet, and there's a basketball title to be won and other things to be done before we go cuckoo with another presidential election.
That basketball's really in part of you, isn't it?
Fun is critical. It's so important to have fun. This is, you know, a path appears. It's
I mean, that's your passion, right? That in Kentucky basketball.
Gender equality. You know, if we don't, when we fail to empower girls and women, we plan poverty.
More with Ashley Judd right after this. Stay with us. Our guest is Ashley Judd. She's a terrific actress, one of my favorite people. The Judds, they're part of Americana. How are you with the family at the current time? We never know where the Judds are.
And it's really nobody's business, isn't it?
I'm just,
I mean, people like some trafficking, they like trade.
You belong to America.
Oh, wow.
You do.
Wow.
Come on, you're equally famous. You're enormously talented. Are you in good shape now?
I feel like I'm in really good shape. And it's so, when you say that about belonging to America, it reminds me when I finally had my own home and I was beginning to live in my little farmhouse, I used to have dreams that there was paparazzi outside the windows, and in my own house, I would have to get on my belly and sort of sneak around under the window frames so as to have privacy and be unobserved. So belonging to America is an honor and a beautiful thing, and it also comes with some...
You chose a profession that goes with the, right? Comes with the territory.
I do think that there, you know, I do think that public figures have rights to privacy. Yeah.
So it's none of my business. Is that what you're saying?
And I love, you know, there's this, my feeling about my big sister, and I enjoy this every single time, it's just like, it's like a lotus flower when it blooms. She just walks in the room and I go, I love my big sister. And I was just in Arizona with Mom and Pop. We actually went on a hike in the Tonto National Forest.
You released that memoir, All That Is Bitter and Sweet. Was that hard to do? Was that cathartic?
I wrote, so when
that was a very open book.
Well, open would be Andre Agassi's book, Open. You say that word and I immediately think of that phenomenal memoir. When I started to travel doing international social justice, feminist work, and public health work, the first place I went was Cambodia. I think I may have mentioned that. And I went back to my hotel room and I had to write in order to stay alive, like the processing about what I had seen, the exploitation, the poverty. It was so debilitating that I was like writing faster than I could breathe. And that's really what All That Is Bitter and Sweet is. I ended up, after 13 countries, Sub-Saharan and Central Africa, all over the place, writing 850 pages of diaries. And I have such support within my family and my friends that I would send diaries, email them when there was internet, and people would say, you know, you have to publish this somehow. I have a colleague who's a talent agent who said when he got my email, he would close his door and sometimes put his forehead on his arms and cry at his desk. And so the book was positioned as a memoir because I think that sells perhaps, or is more appealing than saying, hey, we were in the brothels in Madagascar for 3 weeks. Here's some diary entries about women being paid 50 cents to lie down on a sidewalk and have sex with just a piece of plastic as, you know, to protect their dignity while their spouse is holding their infant child nearby. Would you buy that book? Or would you buy Ashley Judd, Who Belongs to America's book? And it's a very good book because it's about the grassroots programs that change those problems. And yes, I also I have 2 chapters which are my personal story, which I actually really enjoyed writing.
Is acting still important to you? You're a great actress.
I like it when I do it. I don't know.
I'm acting like I'm 8. I
don't want to be an actor. No.
You don't crave seeing scripts? You don't want to work like that? I mean, you're so good.
Thank you. That's very good.
No, I mean, you really are. You don't... What?
You know what? I'm probably losing jobs right now.
No, but what?
I need to say, yes, I want to act all the time. I mean, it's not that I'm distractible, it's that my life is so full and I do so many interesting things. It's like if a script comes along and it's good, well, I might pop off and do that. But also, I can go to CGI, I can go to Sri Lanka, I can look at family planning in Nigeria, watch fistula surgery in Eastern Congo.
Do you want to have children?
I have children all over the world. I am responsible for the ones who are already here and who are vulnerable.
What do you think about the lack of women in power in Hollywood?
It's
power positions.
Yeah, it's just like Washington and Fortune 500 companies. It's
changing though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Gradually, slowly, we're getting there. I do love acting, by the way. I love the creative. It's not so much the process that I enjoy, but I love the acting, and that's kind of what soured me, sort of in the early 2000s. I was just worn out by the production process. But acting, of course, is a great joy, and I believe. What
do you mean? The waiting around? The
waiting around was great because I could goof off in my trailer and read.
What do you mean the production process?
At that time in my life, it felt tedious, and what I know is that happiness is an inside job, and so that was before I, found my own recovery. And so now that I've got this wonderful new way of life, I enjoy all of the process. Like Insurgent is coming out the 20th of March. It's a great movie to be a part of, to be with Shailene Woodley, who's delicious. Big Stone Gap is an independent film I did. I had one, perhaps, I don't know, maybe my favorite movie I've ever done. So
really?
Distributors are vying for it right now. It's based on the best-selling book. It's a joy. I love it. So I shouldn't minimize the acting. And I think God has given me a gift. It's my responsibility to be a good custodian of it. And so I hold that as a thank you to me.
Are you religious?
Have you heard, and my sister said this on your show, I love it when she says this. Religion is for people who are afraid of hell. Spirituality is for those of us who have already been there.
That's where you are.
I do make a distinction between, and you know, organized religion can be very fulfilling and rewarding for people. My spiritual practice feels more like an inside job and a personal and tender communication with some kind of power greater than myself. And yes, I do participate in structured religion as well.
When you're around these girls who have been demonized, what are they like? How do they live?
They're precious. Traumatized. And that shows up in different ways. Some are able to, I'm getting like tingly all over when I say that. You know, trauma shows up in different ways in different people. Some are really shut down, vacant stares, like physically present, mentally absent. Some do develop their own, well, all develop their own coping strategies. It could be a self-harm addiction, picking, hair pulling, things like that.
Average age is what?
Average age of entry into prostitution in the United States is 12. And there's a link between childhood sexual abuse and, you know, in American pornography, there are images of infants too, so the age is...
In our final moments, Ashley will take your questions. We'll play a little game of If You Only Knew. We'll be right back. Ashley Judd is our guest. A Path Appears, which debuted on January 26th. We're airing this a couple days after, so the next two episodes will be February 2nd and February 9th at 10 o'clock Central on PBS. Couple of questions from the internet, and then we'll have some fun with a little game. That's Steph Smolak via Twitter. What does Martin Luther King's Have a Dream speech mean to you?
The vision, the fierce urgency of now, courage, such courage and bravery. You know, to feel those things is one thing, to have the backbone to say them out loud and with such conviction is mighty. Did you really?
Dramatic, oh.
Wow.
I'll tell you a story later about him. Early Taylor on Instagram. Any thoughts on yet another Tom Brady Super Bowl appearance? Do you think the Patriots will win?
I only have enough sports brain cells for Kentucky basketball and open wheel racing. Sorry, football,
I'm out.
You like
that too.
Yes.
You married that.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Jay Sue on Facebook. Who was your first on-screen kiss?
Will from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
East Dallas Alice on Twitter. Do you still wear Uggs between scenes?
Barefoot when I can, and yes, Uggs are terrific.
You're a country girl.
I hike in the mountains barefoot. I actually hiked in Tonto National Forest barefoot where the sand was, where the alluvial bottom was sandy, because it feels good. That's how we're made. I hike barefoot in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, which Shailene reminded me I could do, because I'd kind of forgotten about hiking barefoot.
I like the Great Smoky Mountains. I drove through them.
Did you
What's that
really?
great city there? With all the motels, one on top of each other.
Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg.
Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
The Smokies are fantastic. That's my cathedral.
Little game of If You Only Knew. I'll just throw questions at you. Funniest fan encounter?
I don't know. I don't have one.
Worst audition?
When they asked me in the room, like you're here and they're there, asking me to take my shirt off.
Well, you're supposed to be undressed in a scene, and what do they want that?
They were hiring breasts, apparently.
Did you do it?
Absolutely not.
Proudest accomplishment?
Loving Buttermilk well the last year of his life.
Best piece of advice you ever received?
Suit up, show up, and wait for God to walk through the door.
Dream co-star.
Paul Newman comes to mind. Well, he's also open-wheel racing guy, so Paul comes to mind. I mean, Vanessa Redgrave, Meryl Streep. I've always had this thing for Gene Hackman.
Best part about being a Kentucky Wildcat.
We win.
All-time favorite Kentucky athlete.
Tony Delk.
Song currently playing on your iPod.
Native American flute.
Favorite thing about working in Hollywood.
Leaving.
The next was least favorite thing about working in Hollywood.
So bad. It is
Going.
I really do want jobs, I promise.
Well, you'll get them. If you could pick a different career, what would it be?
Botanist.
Botanist.
Jockey.
Jockey.
3-day eventer.
Marvel Comics heroine.
Don't have
No.
one.
Okay. Something no one knows about you.
I sleep with a teddy bear.
You sleep with a what?
Teddy bear. I don't know. People know that. My close friends know that. Someone just got me the most beautiful teddy bear from the Salvation Army. They paid 50 cents for it, and I just love her. She's in my suitcase right now.
You sleep with a teddy bear.
I do.
Did you see the movie Ted?
No, not yet.
Oh, you should have. Ashley Judd in 10 years. What?
Me, just more so.
You love to travel?
Expanded capacity for love, expanded capacity for goodness, expanded capacity for giving.
Any place you haven't been, you want to go?
Everywhere.
Well, where haven't
Everywhere. Well, for some reason, Sri Lanka's on my mind today. Oh, you know, Nigeria is very troubled. I'd like to go to Nigeria.
Now?
I have a friend who's a doctor. He's on the board of Population Services International with me. And it's his home country, and the way he describes it and his tenderness for it and the depth of the trouble in his spirit about the challenges there, I'd really like to go to
What
Nigeria.
place didn't you like?
Oh, I've liked everywhere. I'm weird, though. Like, when I first showed up in Kinshasa,
Yeah.
one of the gentlemen at the hotel,
Yeah.
he said, Kinshasa and Democratic Republic of Congo, he said, you know, if you hear gunfire, don't worry, we run out of bullets quickly around here. And I was like, hot dog, I'm in the right place. I don't know.
You like it everywhere.
I like it everywhere. I love slums. I love brothels. I love being with people.
You're a doll.
You're very kind. Thank you for having me.
Big thanks to my great guest, Ashley Judd. Be sure to watch the remaining 2 parts of A Path Appears, airing February 2nd and February 9th at 10 Central on PBS. As always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.